Alright, hey, what's up? This is Bryant again at IQ ABA, helping ABA professionals plan, control, and improve clinical quality one study, protocol, process map, and evaluation at a time. And this is another video on teaching stacking rings. And what we'll do is we'll review what we talked about in the last video and build on that. So what you see here is a behavioral intervention protocol that we wrote in the last video. This is a protocol for teaching a child how to play with a ring stacker. And what I didn't mention in the last video is that you can call this a quality plan. Okay? Universal principles of managing for quality are applicable in applied behavior analysis. There's 3 principles. Joseph Duran came up with these principles. He's a pioneer in the field of quality. It's quality planning, quality control, and quality improvement. All right, and so when you write a behavioral intervention plan, you are planning for quality, okay, for high quality behavioral intervention. And that behavioral intervention protocol is a plan for what you, the technician, or a parent, or whoever the intervention agent is, or the change agent is. This is the plan for what they're going to do in the environment before and after a particular behavior interest occurs or is exhibited by the client for the purpose of improving behavior in the desired direction, or teaching a new skill, right? And okay, so this is a plan. And if you quality control is the things you do in clinical practice to ensure that the quality plan for behavioral intervention is implemented as intended or as written. Okay, and so if you hand off this behavioral intervention protocol to a technician, and the technician is implementing all of this protocol exactly as you've written it, then they are implementing the plan in operations or in a direct treat session. And to the extent that they do that consistently over time, you are, as the clinical supervisor, controlling the quality of this behavioral intervention. Okay, so yeah, let's dive into a few other things here. So let's review the protocol. And so this was a protocol for step 1 of stack rings. And the SD is stack rings. So the therapist is to say stack rings, and they present the ring stacker with 1 ring off. So it'll be the last ring of the ring stacker is off and 3 rings are on. Right? So they simultaneously present the ring stacker with 3 rings on and say stack rings, and that 1 ring is off at the moment. The target response is that the child will independently place that 4th ring on the ring stacker within 5 seconds of the SD without challenging behavior. And we're doing this because the child has demonstrated, for example, in a baseline assessment, that they don't reliably and consistently perform this skill. That's why we're teaching it. And so how are we going to turn the combination of stack rings and the ring stacker with 1 ring off into an SD? And I'm asking that question because right now it's an antecedent. Child does not reliably perform the target response, which means the antecedent combination of the stack rings and the ring stacker with 1 ring off does not function as an evocative antecedent stimulus that momentarily and reliably increases the probability that target response will occur. Right? So the purpose of this protocol is an engineering of the environment, antecedents and consequences manipulated such that the target response can occur as a result of prompts and a prompt feeding strategy in the presence of the currently neutral antecedent stimulus. And we're going to correlate positive reinforcement with the presence of stack rings plus the ring stacker with 1 ring off. right? So reinforcement is going to be negatively correlated with the absence of those stimuli in the learner's environment. And so this describes differential reinforcement, right? So as a result of a history of differential reinforcement, prompting and prompt fading, this procedure will alter the combination of stack rings plus ring stacker presented with one ring off. It will alter the that antecedent stimulus to become an SD, to now have an evocative effect on the target response as written there. Okay, let's take a look at the prompt fading strategies, how we're going to accomplish this. It's specified there's errorless prompting, so that's a 0-second delay between the prompt and the SD. For up to 6 to 8 trials is the recommendation here. So you're interspersing this ring stacker target with other targets. Once you've run 6 to 8 trials in which the errorless prompt successfully evoked the target response, then you would use some time delay probes. Right, so it says followed by a 2-second constant time delay probe. That means after 6 to 8 trials of correct responding that are presumably reinforced by an item, toy, edible, or access to an activity, now you're going to start running trials where you say stack ring and you present the ring stacker with one ring off, but you don't prompt for the first 2 or 3 seconds or so. What does it say? 2-second constant. Okay, so for 2 seconds you don't deliver a prompt. Because during those 2 seconds, you're probing to see if you just present those antecedent stimuli, do they evoke the target response? If they do, that's evidence that differential reinforcement prompt fading has had a function altering effect on those antecedent stimuli, turn them into SDs. All right, and so if you see that target response occur for 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 5 consecutive time delay trials, that's the point at which you can stop prompting completely, eliminate all prompts, and then you would go to DRA, which is just differential reinforcement. It's placing incorrect responses on extinction, and correct responses are scheduled for reinforcement. What does that not mean? That does not mean that if a child performs incorrectly, that you deliver a prompt and deliver a reinforcer. No, that is not going to help. That is going to shift antecedent stimulus control back over to prompts, okay? And you can establish the prompt now as a condition reinforcer because technically the assistance you're providing after the error is contingent on the error. It's a consequence produced by the error. So you don't want to do that. All right, let's look at schedule reinforcement. So the CRF is a continuous reinforcement schedule, or FR1, fixed ratio 1, initially when the skill is being taught or introduced in errorless prompting. Why? Because you want a high, dense rate of reinforcement, a strong correlation. Then faded to FR2 or 3. That's a fixed ratio 2 or 3 schedule of reinforce. That means for every 2 correct responses you reinforce or every 3 correct responses you reinforce once they get out of time delay. Then as they gradually start to approach mastery, which generally is like 80, 90, 95, 100% correct per session or per day. You want to thin the schedule to a VR2 variable ratio 2, so on average every 2 correct responses are reinforced. So sometimes 1 response is reinforced, sometimes 3 responses reinforced, sometimes 2 responses reinforced, sometimes 4 responses reinforced, and so forth. Just you want to vary that across trials within a day, so on average every 2 responses are reinforced. Okay, so EO is the intervention component number 5, that is deprivation of a preferred item, toy, edible, or activity, roughly 30 to 60 seconds deprivation before starting trials. Instructional stimuli are specifically a supervisor-provided ring stacker. What I didn't mention in the last video is that it is probably helpful if the child does not have any contact with the ring stacker outside of this target. Until they master it. Once they master it, then it's okay to let them play freely with it at other unstructured times. But until they master it, what you don't want is a inappropriate learning history, inappropriate ways of using the ring stacker, ineffective ways of playing with it that would interfere with learning the correct way to stack the rings on the ring stacker. Now number 7, setting, is a fuzzy rug and table randomly alternated between these, so the child gets some experience participating in receiving the instruction and on the floor and at the table, as young children generally do. And then intervention component 8, or the 8th part 8 of the quality plan, is generalization strategy here. So it's periodically using unexpected, novel, verbal ST, such as let's play instead of stack rings. Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, one thing we can do is we can graph hypothetical set of data and talk about transition to step 2, or SD2, and what that would look like. Okay, so let's play with this a little bit. So I'm going to enter some data. Okay, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to have, let's see here, just going to do, let's make a new sheet. Okay, and so we're going to have, let's see here, we're going to have day, we're going to have, yeah, let's have day on the x-axis, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these are session days. Okay, and we're going to have the percent independent and correct. So what we're going to graph. We're going to graph percentage. Do we have to? No. But that's beyond this video. We're going to go with percent correct for now. It's pretty common. Common mastery criterion. Well, we didn't specify mastery criteria in the intervention protocol, did we? Okay. So we're going to say mastery is going to be, let's say, 90% independent and correct for at least 10 trials per day, each of 2 consecutive days by insert date. All right. And so there's our mastery criterion. And I made this kind of goal language by putting in the date. If you want, we can just leave the pure mastery criteria here, and that's fine. Okay. So percent correct. All right. So let's say in day 1 we did a baseline probe. Okay. And let's say we didn't teach until day 2. So day 1 baseline probe of 1 ring off was 0% correct. Okay, just going to make that up. That's baseline. All right, so here I'm going to put the condition, and let's just put baseline. All right, and then we're going to intro intervention on day 2. And day 2, they responded 0% correct. Weren't able to get out of area lists and score 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 5 consecutive time delays correctly. All right, so I'm just going to call this int for intervention. And why don't we just call it one shape out, because that's what we're targeting here, right? And then let's say the next day, yay, they were able to fade some prompts and observe some independent responses, 25% correct. And it's still going to be just one shape out for each of these days. Okay, so then they went up to 50% this day, and then 80% here, and then dropped off this day. And then went already up to 90%, and then 90%, boom. All right, so that's 2 consecutive days. So kind of looks like it would be mastered, right? Okay, so let's graph this. Let's just graph it and see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to give you an equal interval line graph here. I'm just going to make this graph together, and I'm going to sort of move the axes around here a little bit. And let's label the axis. Let's call this one, this is the percentage independent. I'll just put it like something like this. Correct. All right. And let's move this up a little bit. We're going to get rid of this here. We're going to say these are days. Okay. And let's change this. Let's make this black. Okay. More conventional colors here. Marker options. Fill. We're going to make it a solid black. Okay. And then let's make the border solid black. Okay. All right. And let's see what else here. I like for my graphs to be Times New Roman. I like to standardize it to 16-point font. makes it easy to read in Excel here. So that looks pretty good. Oh, what are we missing here? We don't have y-axis, right? So let's go to the, let's see here, what do I really want? A y-axis. How to do this? Let's see. We really want to do a line. There we go. Okay. So we got a line, and we'll put a line over here too, just by doing Control Y. Okay, so now we have an x-axis also. And now it makes more sense to give it some tick marks here, right? So we're going to do some major type. Okay, we're going to do on the outside like that. Okay, and we're going to do down here. I like some tick marks on the outside. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of these lines. Okay, so now we're cooking here. I like this. Okay, so, and in fact, I'm going to make this bold. It's a little bit easier to read. I like it like that. But then it made it all. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it like this for now, so it's easy for us to read. Okay, and then well, what do we have here? We're going to have to put some phase labels, right? And baseline was the first day. All right, so I'm going to select this data point. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to go to this paint bucket. I'm going to put no line. Okay, so now we aren't connecting adjacent data points across phases. And I'm going to insert a solid vertical line to indicate that there are two different phases here. We have a baseline right here. Okay, that's baseline. And we have an intervention phase that we, I guess, are calling one shape out. That's fine. Okay, let's just do that. Okay, well, okay, so in baseline, the percent independent correct was 0. Then we introduce an intervention targeting one shape out. And we, across days 2 to 8, we observe an increasing trend, an increase in level, and some variability. But it looks like there's mastery right here. Look at that, 2 consecutive days at 90% correct. Okay, so at this point it looks like this skill is mastered. But is it? Well, let's talk about that in the next video. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click like. If you want to watch more videos like this, you want to stay on top of this video series here and see what we do in the next video, click subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the intervention protocol that we wrote and the graph data here, and maybe even post your comments or your thoughts on what we're going to talk about next in the next video in regards to whether like this is mastered or not. Okay. Again, also, if you ever have any suggestions for other intervention protocols you want to see, feel free to post those in the comments below as well. And we'll see you next time.